The conference room fell silent the moment Xavier started laughing. A full, mocking laugh that echoed off the glass walls. I'd walked in with my presentation printed, my numbers prepared. I'd asked for a raise, 15%. After 3 years of 60-hour weeks, I thought I deserved it. Xavier leaned back in his chair and laughed. Madison, you think you're worth 15% more? You're already overpaid for what you do. 12 faces stared at the table. Nobody looked at me. That's when I saw her. A woman I'd never seen before stood in the doorway. She was tall, elegant, with sharp eyes that moved from Xavier's laughing face directly to mine. Something in that moment told me everything was about to shift. I didn't know who she was yet. I had no idea that single moment would change everything. The meeting ended in chaos. People scattered. Xavier left first, still smirking. I gathered my papers with shaking hands, trying not to cry. My cheeks burned. That's when the woman from the doorway appeared beside me. She was older, maybe mid-50s, with silver streaking through her dark hair. Without a word, she slipped a business card into my hand. "Email me everything," she whispered. Every project, every email, every time he took credit. Before I could ask who she was gone. I looked at the card. Helena Brooks, board member, director of strategic operations. My stomach dropped. I glanced back toward Xavier's office. He was at his desk, phone to his ear. But something in his expression had changed. His jaw was tight. His eyes kept flicking toward me. He'd seen the card. And suddenly, I could see the fear cracking through his confidence. I couldn't focus for the rest of the day. I sat at my desk, staring at Helena's card. 12-hour days. No overtime. Projects that should have taken 3 months I finished in 2, while Xavier presented them with his name first. The promotion that went to his college friend instead of me. The times he'd told me my ideas weren't quite there yet, then implemented them word for word with his own name attached. But it was more than that. My mother was sick. Cancer. I was paying half her medical bills out of my salary while working this job that consumed my life. I needed that raise. Not wanted, needed. The numbers were crushing me. I'd never complained. Never hinted that I was struggling. Around 5 p.m. I sat alone at my desk and pulled up my email. I hovered my cursor over the compose button. Was I really going to do this? Once I sent that email, there was no taking it back. Xavier would eventually know. He'd know I'd gone over his head. I thought of that laugh. That terrible, condescending laugh. I started typing. My email to Helena was methodical. Clinical. Project Alpha. Assigned to me. January 2022. Completed ahead of schedule. April 2022. Presented to board by Xavier. May 2022. My name as primary author. Xavier received promotion based partly on this project's success. I attached everything. Screenshots of emails. Photos of project wikis with my name crossed out. A spreadsheet comparing my workload to my salary against other team members. I attached the rejection letter from HR when I'd applied for the position that went to his friend. The reason given. Better cultural fit. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. I read it twice. Checked every attachment. Then I hit send. The whoosh sound felt like stepping off a cliff. At 12:06 a.m. my phone buzzed. A reply from Helena. Meet me tomorrow. Quietly. 3 minutes later a text. Coffee shop on 5th. 7 a.m. Everything was in motion now. I couldn't stop it. Xavier arrived at work the next morning. I watched from my desk as he walked past. His usual confidence somehow hollow. He was performing now. The way he laughed too loud at someone's joke. His eyes kept tracking toward me. He was panicking. Around 10 a.m., he came by my desk with coffee. He never brought me coffee. He smiled and asked how I was doing. He wanted me to know that his door was always open. Before lunch, he called me in and closed the door. Madison, about yesterday's meeting. He started. It's fine, I said quietly. No, it's not. Maybe we could find some middle ground here. I'm thinking about revisiting the Ray's conversation. He was offering me a crumb to make me forget what had happened. That's okay, I said. I'll think about it. He relaxed, clearly believing he'd diffused the situation. As I left, he reached out and touched my shoulder, a gesture that made my skin crawl. When his back was turned, I saw him check my desk drawer. He was digging through my things. The mask was cracking. Helena's coffee shop was quiet, tucked away from the main downtown corridor. She was already there, sitting in a corner booth with a simple black coffee. She didn't smile when I sat down. She just listened. I told her everything. How small I'd felt. How exhausted I was. How I'd watched my mother's medical bills pile up while Xavier went on vacation. How I'd learned to make myself smaller and quieter. And it had never been enough. Helena didn't take notes during most of it. She just watched my face. When I finished, there was a long silence. This isn't the first complaint about him, she said finally. What? Xavier Stone. He's been on our radar for 18 months. Turnover in his department is triple the company average. 3 discrimination complaints filed. 2 settled out of court. 1 withdrawn. My heart started racing. Why haven't you done anything? Lack of documentation. Lack of corroboration from current employees willing to speak on record. People are scared. They need their jobs. She sipped her coffee. But you've given us the thread we needed. She leaned forward slightly. Madison, what I'm about to ask you could get messy. You could face retaliation. It won't be easy. I thought of that laugh. What do you need me to do? Yes. Helena spent the next hour walking me through what they already knew. Xavier had been systematically stealing credit from his team for years. One woman had quit after he presented her entire product launch as his own vision. A man had been passed over for promotion 5 times while Xavier brought in outsiders. There were patterns of favoritism and budget allocations that didn't match stated priorities. What we don't have, Helena said, is current testimony from people willing to speak on record. You're inside his department. You have receipts. You want me to spy on him, I said. I want you to continue working normally, documenting everything and reporting it to me. If he retaliates, I need evidence. If he pressures you, I need proof. Isn't that illegal? One-party consent recording is legal in this state. You can record conversations you're participating in. You can take screenshots of emails. You can keep copies of your own work. Pause. What you're about to do is dangerous, but it's not illegal. I left that coffee shop with Helena's personal number and a clear understanding of what came next. I was about to tear apart the man I'd worked for, and he had no idea. The next 3 weeks were the strangest of my career. I went to work. I did my job. I smiled at Xavier like nothing had changed. But everything was different now. I was watching him like a hunter watches prey, tracking patterns, noting behaviors. And he was unraveling in real time. Xavier had always been confident. But confidence requires belief that you're safe. Now, even though nothing concrete had happened, he somehow knew the ground was shifting. He became hypervigilant. His eyes followed me. He started sitting in on meetings he normally wouldn't attend. He made comments about loyalty that didn't make sense. One day he assigned me a major project with a tight deadline. When I completed it in 2 weeks instead of 4, he looked almost disappointed. Copied all of it, backed it up to a personal cloud drive, took screenshots with dates visible. The team noticed something was wrong. The way people moved carefully around both of us. The tension in the air. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. Xavier called me into his office and locked the door. My stomach tightened immediately. This was different. I've been hearing some concerning things about your attitude lately, he started. His voice controlled and cold. Multiple team members have expressed concerns that you seem unhappy, disengaged. Some have even said you seem angry. Every word was carefully measured. This was a script. I'm fine, I said. You don't seem fine. You seem like someone who's lost focus. And I'm worried about your future here at the company. He paused, letting the threat hang in the air. People who go over their manager's head don't tend to have long careers at this company. People who betray trust get remembered for that. And when they move on to other jobs, well, references matter. He was threatening my future, my livelihood. I felt my hands start to shake, so I put them in my lap. If you have concerns about my performance, I'd like them documented officially, I said. The meeting ended. I left and went straight to the bathroom. Then I pulled out my phone and sent the entire recording to Helena. There was no going back anymore. Helena's response came within an hour. This is exactly what we needed. Don't respond to anything else without recording it. We're escalating. I forwarded the recording to her with timestamps. Over the next few days she sent me questions. What was he working on? Who was he meeting with? Were there budget discrepancies? Any financial decisions that seemed unusual? I became her eyes and ears inside the department. For the first time, I realized Helena hadn't just been waiting for someone like me to come forward. She'd been laying groundwork for months. There were already HR complaints filed. There were already patterns in the financial data. There were already questions being asked at the board level. I was the final piece. The person on the inside who could confirm what they already suspected. The following Monday, the company announced a comprehensive performance and leadership audit. It was sent out in a bland email from HR. Nothing specific. But I watched Xavier's face when he read it. His jaw clenched. He excused himself and didn't come back for 20 minutes. He knew. Somehow, he knew they were coming for him. The official audit started the following Wednesday. 2 people from corporate came in. A man and a woman in business attire, carrying tablets and notepads. They set up a temporary office on the 3rd floor and started calling people in for interviews. Xavier went first thing that morning. He was in there for 3 hours. When he came out, something in him had shifted. The panic was being replaced by something that looked almost like anger. By Friday, HR asked to interview me. I walked in and sat across from Kevin and Michelle. I told them everything. Clear, documented facts with dates and attachment numbers. I showed them the original documents with my name on them, then the presentations where Xavier had erased my contribution. I explained the workload distribution that didn't match the performance reviews being given. Michelle took extensive notes. Kevin asked very specific questions about financial decisions and spending. Have you noticed anything unusual about budget usage? Kevin asked. I hesitated. This was the moment where I could go full witness or pull back. I thought of my mother. Yes, I said. Xavier approved a $40,000 consultant fee for someone who barely worked here. But he denied my request for professional development training that would have cost $2,000. And he approved other expensive hires. All people he had personal connections to. There's more, I said. A raise was approved 2 months ago. 22%. It went to someone who's been here less than a year and is significantly less experienced than I am. When I asked about my raise, Xavier laughed at me in front of the entire team. The audit ended that day. But something fundamental had shifted. Over the next week, things got strange. Xavier started acting erratic. He'd snap at people over nothing, then overcompensate with false cheerfulness. He cornered his favorite employee in the break room and asked if he'd said anything to the auditors. The employee swore he hadn't. Xavier didn't look like he believed him. Then, on Tuesday, something critical happened. The quarterly earnings report was due to the board. The one I'd written. The one Xavier had submitted last quarter with his name on it. Xavier called me in and asked if I had a copy. It should be in the shared drive, I said. He went pale. It's not. It's been removed. From everywhere. My heart started racing. He'd deleted it. He was destroying evidence. I excused myself and immediately texted Helena. He deleted the quarterly report from the shared drive. Her response came instantly. Did you keep a copy? Personal backup. Metadata intact. Send it now. With evidence of the deletion timestamp. I sent her the file I'd saved, along with screenshots showing when it had been removed. The timing was clear. The deletion had happened this morning, right after his meeting with the auditors. He just handed Helena exactly what she needed. The days after the document deletion, Xavier came apart. I watched it happen in real time. The confidence that had carried him for years evaporated. The arrogance that had let him steal without guilt disappeared. He started making mistakes in meetings, contradicting himself, forgetting what he'd said. His hands shook when he held his coffee. One afternoon, I heard him in the hallway. His voice raised at the employee who'd gotten the raise. "Did you tell them about the consultant?" Xavier demanded. "Did you mention anything about how I hired him?" "No, I didn't. Because if you did, we're both done." The employee looked panicked. "Xavier, I didn't say anything. I swear." But the damage was done. Xavier had just essentially admitted there was something to hide about the consultant hire. I stood at my desk, watching the chaos, and felt something complicated. There was satisfaction, yes. But there was also sadness. This man had chosen to become the villain in his own story. Helena called me that evening. "We're ready," she said simply. "The board meets Thursday. I'm going to present the full audit. There's no way out of this for him now. Are you ready?" "What happens to me?" "Yes. You could stay as is, transfer to another department, or step into his role temporarily while we find a permanent replacement. What do you want?" I hadn't let myself think about what came after. I'd been so focused on surviving each day. "What do you think I should do?" "Yes. I think you've spent 3 years proving you're better at this job than the person doing it. It would be a waste if you didn't finish what you started. You want me to become a manager. I want you to be given the opportunity. The choice is yours." I thought of the 12-hour days, the projects I'd finished early, the ideas I'd generated that had walked into presentations under someone else's name. "I'll do it," I said. "Good. Wear something professional Thursday. And Madison, be prepared for this to get very ugly before it gets better." Thursday morning, a calendar invitation appeared in everyone's email. Board meeting 2 p.m. Xavier got the same email. I watched his face when he saw it. He knew. On some level, he understood that this wasn't routine. He tried to act normal through the morning, but it was a performance given by someone who'd forgotten how to perform convincingly. He worked on his laptop with his jaw clenched. He made calls that went nowhere. He kept checking his watch. Around 1:15 p.m., Helena appeared in the hallway. She made eye contact with me, nodded slightly. It was time. At 2 p.m. sharp, we filed into the large conference room. The board members were already seated, 6 of them, including Helena. 2 auditors stood to the side. There were lawyers present. Xavier sat at the far end of the table, directly across from Helena. He looked like a man who'd been called to his own execution. "Thank you all for being here," Helena began. "We've completed the comprehensive performance and leadership audit. The findings are significant." Helena did not hold back. She presented the data clinically, which somehow made it more devastating. Turnover statistics, financial discrepancies, pattern of discriminatory hiring, evidence of credit theft, timeline of complaints, budget allocations that didn't match approved spending. A consultant hired for $40,000 who barely worked here and happened to be Xavier's college roommate. She presented my quarterly report, first with my original name, then with Xavier's added version side by side. They were identical except for the authorship. She presented recordings of conversations, but retaliation, references to going over his head. With each slide I watched Xavier's face transform. First shock, then defensive anger, then the shock of understanding that none of it mattered anymore. Additionally, Helena said, "We have evidence that documents were deliberately deleted from company servers on November 14th at 9:47 a.m., immediately following Mr. Stone's meeting with our auditors. We have the deletion timestamps and the forensic recovery of the deleted files." She looked directly at Xavier. You destroyed evidence of your misconduct. Xavier stood up abruptly. His chair flew backward. This is insane, he said, his voice high and strained. You're taking the word of a disgruntled employee? I've been here for 8 years. I've built that department. Everything she's showing you it's taken out of context. It's documented, Helena said quietly. Corroborated by auditors. Supported by HR complaints and financial records. Xavier looked around the room, trying to find an ally. Everyone stared back with disappointment and disgust. He sat back down. The fight drained out of him. Before we vote, one of the board members said, does Mr. Stone have anything to add? Xavier opened his mouth, closed it. Nothing came out except his breath, ragged. Then let's proceed, the board member said. The vote took 12 minutes. It wasn't close. Effective immediately, Helena announced. Xavier Stone is removed from his position as department manager. His promotion is being revoked. His bonus is being frozen pending the conclusion of the investigation. We are recommending further legal action regarding the evidence destruction. Xavier sat completely still. Regarding his employment status, Helena continued, a final decision will be made after investigation completion. HR will contact you regarding severance options. It was over. Methodical, thorough, and absolutely devastating. Before Xavier left the conference room, security arrived. 2 officers. They were professional, but the message was clear. He wasn't allowed to return to his desk unsupervised. His building badge was being deactivated. As he was being escorted out, he caught my eye across the room. For a second, I saw the real Xavier underneath the posturing. Not angry. Not defensive. Just broken. Just someone who'd built everything on stolen foundation and watched it collapse. I felt the moment his desperation shifted. He realized I was the cause of this. That I'd been the one who'd brought Helena the evidence. That I'd been building the case against him the whole time. His hands curled into fists. His mouth opened like he was about to say something terrible. Then the officers gently guided him toward the door. As he passed my seat, he leaned down and whispered, "You'll regret this, Madison. Promise you that. You'll realize no one cares and you'll understand what you threw away." It was a threat dressed up like a prophecy. I just looked at him and didn't respond. He left. And he never came back. After Xavier was escorted out, the board remained seated. Helena motioned for me to stand and step forward. My heart nearly stopped. "Madison," she said, her voice carrying across the quiet room. "You've shown exceptional integrity throughout this process. You documented misconduct despite personal risk. You were honest with auditors. You've essentially saved this company from ongoing liability. I didn't know where this was going. We'd like to offer you an opportunity," she continued. "Temporary leadership of your department while we recruit a permanent manager. The role comes with immediate salary adjustment, 30% increase, full benefits upgrade, and consideration for permanent promotion if the role is a good fit. What do you say?" The room was completely silent. I thought of all the nights I'd stayed late working. I thought of my mother. I thought of that laugh. "Yes," I said. "I'll take the position." The board members smiled. Several nodded. Helena looked like she'd been expecting exactly that response. "Welcome to leadership, Madison," she said. Over the next few days, the fallout unfolded like dominoes. The employee who'd gotten the raise was placed on administrative leave pending investigation into whether he'd been complicit. He'd eventually resign rather than face termination. The consultant had his contract terminated immediately. 3 employees who'd filed complaints against Xavier came forward with additional information. The audit expanded into a company-wide examination of departmental practices. And me. I walked into that office Monday morning as the interim manager. My team looked at me differently now. Not with pity or judgment, but with something closer to respect. I held a meeting that morning. "Things are going to change," I said simply. "Not dramatically, but fairly, equitably. If you do good work, it gets recognized under your name. If you have ideas, you get credit. If you need professional development, we'll find budget for it. If you need something, my door is open." Priya started to cry. Relief tears. "Can we actually trust this?" one person asked quietly. "Yes," I said. "You can." The weeks following Xavier's removal were surreal. Working in that department now felt different. Lighter. People smiled more. Collaboration replaced the hoarding of information that had characterized his leadership. I started mentoring people. I made sure credit went where it was due. I approved professional development. I fought for salaries that matched market rates. And I learned quickly that being a good manager was about being fair and being present and caring enough to notice when someone was struggling. But Xavier's shadow still lingered. His legal situation was ongoing. The company was negotiating a severance package that included a non-disparagement clause. He wasn't allowed to speak negatively about the company or me. I sometimes wondered what he was doing now. If he felt regret. If he understood that all of this had been avoidable if he just treated people with basic respect. Probably not. People like Xavier don't change. They just find new places to operate until someone stops them again. 6 weeks after becoming interim manager, I was called back to Helena's office. "How are you doing?" she asked, setting down her pen. "Good. The department is stable. Productivity is actually up. Turnover has stopped completely. That's what the numbers show," she said. "And what the board has decided is that we don't need to go through a recruiting process. You're the right person for this role." She slid a contract across her desk. "Permanent position. Assistant director level. Enhanced benefits. Equity options. The salary is locked in for 3 years with annual adjustments. And Madison, you earned this. Not as revenge. As recognition of actual competence and integrity." I opened the contract. The numbers were more than I dared to hope for. Enough to cover my mother's medical bills. Enough to breathe. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it with every part of myself. "No," Helena said. "Thank you. You had the courage to do the right thing when it would have been much easier to stay silent. That's rare. That matters." I drove to the hospital after leaving Helena's office. My mother was having a good day. Her energy was up. She was sitting up in bed when I walked in, and she smiled when she saw me. "Baby, you look happy," she said. "What happened?" I sat down on the edge of her bed and took her hand. "I got a permanent promotion," I said. "Assistant director. New salary. Benefits package that's going to make the medical bills much more manageable. Mom, we're going to be okay." She started crying immediately. I held her while she shook. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. So proud. "I couldn't have done this if you hadn't pushed me to work hard," I said. "No," she said, pulling back to look at me. "You did this because you're good and strong and you weren't willing to settle for being treated badly. That's who you are, Madison." 3 months after Xavier's removal, he officially resigned from the company. His severance package was substantial, enough that he wouldn't be in immediate financial hardship. But his career had taken a hit that would follow him. References from the company would be professional but sparse. He wouldn't be hired at a comparable level again. The day he officially left, security walked him out one final time. He looked different now. Older. Smaller somehow. As he passed my desk, he didn't try to say anything. He didn't try to threaten or bargain. He just looked at me for a moment. Then he was gone. I watched him disappear into the elevator, and I realized something that surprised me. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. I just felt sad. Sad that someone had chosen power and cruelty over kindness and fairness. And grateful. Deeply, viscerally grateful that it was finally over. 6 months after I became interim manager, I hosted the annual department holiday celebration in the office. Everyone came. Helena stopped by and congratulated me again. HR told me that employee satisfaction scores in my department had increased 43% in 6 months. Productivity metrics were the highest in company history. As I stood there watching my team laugh and celebrate together, I thought about that moment in the conference room. The moment Xavier realized he'd lost. But here's what I understand now, looking back. It was never about winning against him. It was about refusing to let someone else's smallness define my worth. I'd asked for a 15% raise and been laughed at. Now I had a 30% increase, a promotion, respect, and the power to make sure no one else in my department would be treated the way I'd been treated. That's not revenge. That's growth. That's what happens when you decide you're worth fighting for. Later that evening, I sat in my new office and thought about what Helena had said. Your silence protects no one, not even the people who benefit from it. Xavier had believed that as long as no one spoke up, he could keep doing what he'd been doing. That silence meant permission. But I'd broken the silence. And everything had changed. I opened my desk drawer and looked at Helena's business card. I'd kept it as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the people you think don't notice you are watching. A reminder that integrity matters even when it's hard. A reminder that speaking up is never weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. So proud of you. Come visit soon. I smiled and typed back. This weekend. Love you. As I left the building that night, I felt lighter than I had in 3 years. The weight that had been pressing on my chest was finally gone. I fought back. I'd won. And I'd come out of it as a person who understood her own worth. And that, I realized, was the real victory.